Welcome to another edition of Dealing with the Devils. We got our preview today for the Western Carolina game this Saturday at 1:30. As always, we'll be live post-game, probably around 3:30 Eastern time. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, drop a comment below. What do you guys think the score is going to be? What do you think, JD? We got it all out of the way?
I think we got everything out of the way, but I don't know where I am. This past weekend, I was in Los Angeles. I'm up in Boston now. And yet here we are through the magic of virtual media. We're back together again.
Back together. We are getting ready for game 2 for the Blue Devils this season. It seemed like it took forever for the season to start, and now very quickly we're on to the second game of the season. I think it's going to be fun for Coach Shire, for us to get to learn more about this team, for him to learn more about what he has and the different lineups that he can use. And I think ultimately that's what this game is going to be used for. Quickly, though, we should talk about Western Carolina. They played a game. They played Cincinnati.
The Catamounts.
Yes, they played the Bearcats. Classic Catamount Bearcat matchup.
Rivalry. Yeah.
Well, rivalry may be a step far. I don't know if we can get quite there. But it wasn't a close game. But there are some players for Western Carolina that we should keep an eye out for. And number one is going to be Cord Stansbury, 6'4" guard, can really shoot the ball. I am sure that the Duke scouting report is going to be centered on him. He had over 20 points in the game against Cincinnati, 4 or 5 3-pointers. And he's a guy who doesn't need a ton of space to get a shot off. We know what that's like, with Isaiah Evans. So he's going to be a guy to focus on. Marcus Kell is 6'8" forward. He's got some skill. And then Julian Sumaro is a guard who can get into the lane and create for others. They also have a 7-footer who did foul out in the game, but he's a legit 7-foot big man who could maybe give Duke some problems. They got a 6'9" freshman. All this to say, Duke should win by 30.
I got him by 23 because my hope, it would have been a lot larger, but my hope is that we're going to see some time for people that wouldn't usually get time. This is a great opportunity for Coach Shire to give minutes. We'll talk about that later.
So let's just jump into the score predictions. We'll get that. Since you went there.
All
So
right.
what was yours?
93-70.
Okay. My thing is, we were close, but I think Duke's defense, I almost wonder if I'm underrating Duke's defense in this game. I think they are going to lock in on that side of the ball. So I went with 92-63. And I was initially thinking 98-63, but I had similar thought to you that Coach Shire is going to use this game as an opportunity to try out different lineups, different combinations, and see what works, what doesn't work. He's got a couple of games now before Kansas to try out different configurations, and so I think that will bring the total points down for the Blue Devils.
I agree. And for me, the first one that I think we're going to have to test is, given the fact that Malik Brown and Patrick Gongba fouled out of the last game. So what does that leave us? And when I last spoke to you, I was thinking Sebastian Wilkins, but he's 6'8", 220. So the question is, iffy.
Well,
can he use look, size-wise, he's 6'11", 240.
Yes. And he had some good moments in preseason opportunities for the Blue Devils, but this is not a guy who comes in with a track record of having played in a lot of games. From his time at Rice, he was a bit player. And so and based off the fact that those two guys fouled out and we didn't see them, says to me, I don't know what scenario. Maybe Cameron Boozer also fouls out. Like, I think we'd have to get pretty far down the line for
Come on,
Iffy to
give
get in.
Iffy a shot.
Well, I think with Iffy, I think he can maybe earn it. And I think a good example of that would be Justin Robinson, who under
Sure.
Coach K, right, we kept thinking maybe this guy can get some minutes. Like, if he has the size. I'm not saying if he can't play, I'm just saying his track record, coaches haven't given him an opportunity to play. And so maybe if Duke can get out to a lead more closer to what I think than you think in this game, there'll be an opportunity for a guy like Iffy and Cameron Sheffield and Jack Scott to get in the game and then prove a little bit to Coach Shire that they should get that opportunity, in the event of foul trouble. Let's say, let's forget fouling out. Let's say we get to a game where both guys have two fouls and there's a minute and 30 seconds left, or last game. All three of them had two
All three
fouls.
of them.
So we get to that scenario, instead of putting Gangba back in and having, the risk of him picking up his third, you go to Iffy for the last minute and 30 seconds. So that way everyone can at least get to the second half without picking up that third foul. So I think if we can get some garbage time minutes, he can build that confidence in Shire potentially to give him some time.
Well, so stay there 1 second. So if, pun intended, if this is a good game for Patrick Gamba to start to not commit that silly foul, but if he's prone to it, we're going to be dealing with Patrick Gamba foul trouble because we love having him in the game. So got to balance that. That's one. Two, Malik Brown, one shoulder injury away from, being a problem. And so I can't see a world where I don't want Iffy getting 5 minutes.
Well, there's nothing against him. I just don't see it happening.
All right.
Well, in this game, sure. I just mean in the game against Kansas, the bigger games. I find it hard to find the time for him. But with Gangwa's foul trouble, Malik Brown, for as great as he is, because of his style of play, does pick up fouls. And so I don't think this is going to be a one-off, the Texas game where both these guys are in major foul trouble. I think this is going to be something that comes up a lot over the season. But in the case of Gangba, I think he has a better chance than Brown to reduce his fouls, because we've seen it in a couple of these exhibition games and the real game with Texas, where he's really getting himself in trouble with reach-ins or fouls away from the basket that I think can be cleaned up, and that would help him stay on the court more. And I think Malik also, it was his first game back. He's got to get into rhythm, and I think he'll be better with that aspect too moving forward.
What'd you catch in Coach Shire's post game that he said that Malik Brown was breathing too hard?
Yeah, he said he was gassed before the game even started. He was so number one amped up for it, but also he hadn't been able to really get in runs with the guys because they were being very cautious with his knee injury. Now, no, I don't know if you can hear the dogs are going crazy. They're in a wrestling match, and I think in this game, the Duke Bigs should be able to have success down low with their wrestling match against the forwards and bigs of Western Carolina, unlike the Texas Bigs. And so I noticed in the game with Cincinnati, who had they start 6'11", 7'2" in their front line, so they're a really big team. They were able to have their way inside against the Catamounts of Western Carolina.
So you said the dogs, so that would be our two technical assistants for the podcast. That would be PJ and Mac, and we'll introduce them to the audience maybe today, maybe a subsequent broadcast. But we have two new members to Jack and JD's team. They provide their sound technicians.
That is one way to put it. Now, for other guys that I'm looking forward to in this game, to get some opportunities. Number one person for me is Darren Harris, who I think has shown some real signs of improvement. He didn't get a ton of minutes in the Texas game, but I loved his hustle. He knocked down the three. Can he take this opportunity and start building some confidence and consistency? Because right now, I would say of the 9 guys who played in the Texas game, just looking at the minutes, he's the ninth guy. Boozer, Hemenia, Brown are, the first 8 in the first 8, and then Harris is 9. So can he get some confidence from the coaching staff and for himself to push him into maybe that first 8, or make it so it's not such a clear drop off from the first 8 to 9?
Jack, you're going to have to carry this a second. We've got some technical difficulties. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Okay, so Darren Harris, I couldn't agree more, but it's also an opportunity for Caleb and Caden to see which one is going to actually pick his head up and show that he's got the leadership and is trying to space the floor appropriately like a true point guard.
Well, those are the other 2 guys for me that are key in this game for development purposes. But I think they're in very different spots, and I think I would disagree with you on pick how you described it, because I think Foster doesn't need to change anything. He just needs to do what he did in the second half offensively and what he did in both halves defensively. He just keep going, buddy. You're doing just fine as far as I'm concerned. But Caden, I mentioned this on the post game. The reason why Foster is getting the minutes over him right now is nothing to do with offense. It's defense. And Foster is just really good since really the middle to 2/3 part of the last season with his on-ball defense. And with Caden, can he improve on that end enough, playing with toughness and physicality? I don't know how much of that can change throughout the season. That may be more of a summer, you got to build your body, etc. But can he get a little bit more confidence offensively to kind of make up for that aspect defensively in this game, build, some confidence in his jumper, maybe get a nice drive to the rim, but more importantly, do what he does best, which is find open teammates. I think he's the best passer on this team. Maybe you could argue his brother, but it's one of the Boozers. And so can he get a little bit of a flow finding open teammates for threes or dunks, etc.?
So we don't disagree by much, but what I'm suggesting is that Caleb, as he's approaching midcourt, as opposed to being so intent on getting past his defender, he could start from midcourt, shading the ball a bit more, and then suggesting move this way, go further down. I'd like to see some direction coming from him, although we think, at least I think, it's going to come through ultimately Cam Bruiser in the point forward position, the direction of the team.
I actually think Foster's done that.
Okay. We'll see. We'll see Saturday.
No, he's already done it. That's my point. He did it certainly in the UCF game. Now, the first half of the Texas game, not great. But the second half, much better. And that it's not that he's not doing it. So that's where I would disagree with you. It's that the consistency is where it can come from. Like, it was a tale of 2 halves for Foster. He actually does do, even in the Tennessee game, he'll bring the ball up, he'll pass it, he'll direct people, he'll tell them where to go. So I think my challenge for you is to look out for that more. Because I think he is doing that part of the game. And then what I was calling for was for him to be a little bit more aggressive, looking for a shot. The first half, he absolutely did not do that, and then he forced a couple. The second half, he was much better with that. So I think Foster's stock is rising as we go into this game with the Catamounts. And for Kalen Boozer, he's still working his way through things, and I think it's important to note for him, this is probably the first time, maybe in his life, or certainly in a very long time, where he's got to come off the bench and play 12 to 16 minutes
Yep.
instead of being, the point guard, have the
Yep.
keys, have the ability to make mistakes and figure your way out through a game. He doesn't get that right now. And so that's a tough adjustment for somebody to make. So we got to give him a little bit of time to adjust to this role, I think, as well.
Let's just go for the fun of it. Let's go through the rest of the team. So I can't imagine there's a world that Cameron Boozer plays the half that he did in the Texas game.
No.
It's just not going to happen. So I think we'll see two halves from him. But in fact, I think if we're both right about the score, he's not going to play the entire second half. He's going to long before that half is over, he'll be out. So I don't think the Gangba Isaiah Evans connection is wonderful. I want it to keep growing. Is there an alley oop in store there for Gangba? Not certain, but it could be. There's a long tradition of that. And then Dame. This could be this easily could be a breakout game where he shows us that he's good for 15 points.
Yeah. Well, which one do you want to talk about?
You pick any.
All right. All right. Fair enough. I thought we were, the way you said it, I thought we were going to go one at a time. And then you just jumped, you went to like the whole starting lineup right there, except for
Well, I got
Foster.
done with Cam Bruiser. There's not much more to say about him.
No,
And
we won't
uh,
learn, we won't learn much about him in this game, I would think,
Well,
anyways.
and that's kind of what I think about
Right.
Gamba and Evans, that they
Well,
have really emerged because right away we were saying who's 2 and 3, and they've emerged as 2 and 3, and I expect the same. So I don't have as much to say about the three of them for
yeah.
this particular matchup, and I guess that's why I went all the way to Dame Sar.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I think we touched on the one thing from Gangba earlier, fouls. Can he clean that part up? It'd be really nice if he could get past the 19-minute mark without picking up his first foul. I think that would be, listen, that's the one thing I'm looking for from Gangba because everything else he's already shown, as you said.
And by 19-minute mark, you mean 1 minute into the game.
Correct. Correct. Uh, yeah, and everything else you said. So with Dame, it's interesting because defensively, it did not take him very much time at all. It took
Nope.
him the first couple minutes of the Tennessee game. It looked like, he was maybe a little bit nervous, trying to find his footing out there. And then after that, him and Malik Brown on the court together is wild. It's just. And then Foster with his on ball defense, Texas had a really tough time just
Evans
initiating their
has long
offense.
arms. I mean, and then Boozer. I mean, it is, and I'm just putting another $5 in my kitty, so it's $15. Last year, it was so much fun with the extension of everybody's arms. They're not far. They're not far. The biggest that there are differences. Look, we're going to get even our fan base will get upset with me on this. There are obvious differences with
Well,
Cooper
there's
Flagg, who could play defense everywhere and make up for any mistake, Sion James, but the the um, the width of the five guys that I just mentioned covers a lot of space, and especially when Malik Brown is there, because Malik can actually make up for any of the shortfalls through his incredible ability to just deflect passes.
well, yeah, and I mean the most obvious difference. I'll throw a five in there is that Malawach, because as good and big as Gangba is, he's not 7'2", and that's the real big difference between. But the way the wingspans, it's very similar, and the athleticism is very similar of the guys. And I think the cohesiveness early on, they've looked better each game. The first exhibition game with UCF, there was some it's like switching errors that they needed to clean up. They did that very quickly. Like very quickly. The Tennessee game, they were much better. Texas game, they were much better. I think that side of the ball is just going to continue to get better because off the bench, it's not like there's a major drop off. You bring in Brown and Homenia, who, like, we all know about Brown, but Homenia's hustle, his defense, like, we haven't touched on him. Him and Sar, I'm really curious about in this game. With expecting Cameron to play a little bit less minutes, can they give us a bit more, as you said, with Sar offensively, but also Homenia? I think both those guys could be in line for bigger nights, or I guess I should say afternoons, considering the time of this game in this one, because I think Boozer will play a little bit less, probably Gangba and Evans, and so those two guys could get a little bit more opportunity. With Sar, I'm curious, can he be a little get a little bit more opportunities on the ball in half court? We know Homenia is going to get those because we've seen it already. Where they'll have Homenia initiate the offense from like the top of the 3 point line because he's as we especially we saw in the last one, he's a really good passer. And him and the Boozers, I guess I'll correct myself, are probably the three best passers on this team outside the bigs. Both Brown and Gangba can really pass the ball. And so I don't think anybody on this team, and a little bit of a tangent here, is going to average more than 4 assists. But I do think there's going to be several guys who are in that 3 assist range. And I think it's going to be a really good collective passing team, but there's not going to be, there's no Ryan Nemhard, Braden Smith guy who's going to average 8, 9 assists on this team.
Not this team, and certainly not coming from the guard play.
Right, especially like Caden Boozer would be the guy who would be closest to do that. But as of right now, Foster's going to play more minutes, and so he's not going to have the opportunity to do that. So we talked about Sar. We talked about anything you want to mention on Homenia?
Um, yes, that maybe this is an opportunity to see some offensive play from him, but I really think he is the defensive stopper that we're going to need in case our bigs are in foul trouble, coach isn't playing iffy, and therefore I think the guy with the energy, tenacity, a little bit of that bulk, willing to match up and mix it up a bit is definitely Humenya. And so if that opportunity presents itself, I'd sure like to see it because we're going to need it against better teams.
Yes, yes. And one thing I forgot about with Dame Sar, I put up the clip on TikTok and Instagram from the last game when he gets I don't know if he got the rebound, but it came out to him, and he goes basically the full length of the court in 3 seconds and gets fouled, and he just passes everybody on Texas with the ball. And I was like, is he the fastest player in college basketball? Like the way I couldn't believe how fast he was with the ball in a straight line drive, which makes me think that there's going to be a time or two this season with how good he is defensively where somebody's going to think they're out on a fast break all alone, and Dame Sar is going to come out of nowhere and have one of those like LeBron like chase down blocks because of the way he defends.
I think that's a great point, and I look forward to seeing it. It's going to happen. But I still think the only blemish from that game was his terrific breakaway missed dunk. And in the locker room or in the practice the next day, there must have been a lot of ribbing about his ability to dunk.
Well, the fact that he was laughing afterwards about it was probably a good sign. Um, but yeah, I agree. And that play, obviously, he missed the dunk. But his
He did everything
anticipation,
else right.
the anticipation to read that pass, like his defensive instincts are unreal. And I just expect that to continue to blossom as the year goes on. Him and Hamenya are just an awesome duo at that small forward, power forward spot, a bit for Hamenya for sure. And then lastly, the 10th guy on this team we haven't talked about yet, Seabass, Sebastian Wilkins. I think this is a good opportunity for him to get 10, at most 15 minutes, depending on how the game goes. But get him some confidence. Knock on wood, but this is Duke basketball. At some point this season, probably somebody is going to, unfortunately, miss a couple games. And it's going to be important that Wilkins is ready to go because he's going to be needed at some point this season. I don't know when. It reminds me of it ended up not being very much needed, but you remember this was the Zion year. I think Zion was down.
Oh, he missed 5 games or 5 or 6 games.
He was out. There was like one or two other players who were hurt, and we had to burn the red shirt for Joey Baker. And then he only ended up playing maybe a handful of minutes, but we burned his red shirt. But it just goes to my point that you just never know. You just never know when you may need to call on a player, and so to have him get some more confidence in this game, he showed some flashes certainly in the UCF game. Got a couple minutes in the Tennessee game. He didn't play at all at Texas, so this would be a good opportunity for him to get out on the court and just build some confidence.
So Duke's at home. They're likely to be up by a lot. We've established that. We've established the players in all seriousness that we would like to see what they're going to do. In this situation, who is going to emerge, Jack, as the fan favorite that they start to scream, come off the bench. We want to see such and such because we had such a great run with Spencer Hubbard.
That person's not there. Because
whoa.
Well, here's why. Spencer Hubbard, it took 4 years for him to become, like, at the end of the games, Madison Square Garden. They're going crazy to get him into the game. But it built up over 4 years. It's going to take a couple of years for somebody, I'm going to pull Todd Zafarowski. He was another guy. Well, not quite Hubbard levels, but he was up there, And it takes a couple of years for you to be able to really to build that role for the crazies to be calling your name. It's not, a year one thing. Now, I've got a trivia question for you before we sign off here. How many times have these two teams matched up?
Wow. You're asking me how many times, so it's what?
3.
3 times.
3 times.
I guess maybe I should have gone a little bit more given that they're a Carolina team, but
it's the first time they've matched up since 1996. So it's been quite some time for
that's why I didn't remember.
for these two teams to play each other.
Were you born yet?
Yes, I was all of
2.
No. I was like 5 months old.
So why didn't you remember? There's this better chance that you at 5 months would remember than me at my age.
I only remember watching when they were, 2000. But you're probably right that I would have a better chance of remembering that. So with that being said, drop your comments. We want to hear from you guys. What are you guys looking forward to in this game? What do you want to see? Lineups from different players, etc. Let us know in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Give us a like. share it with a friend. And until Saturday afternoon, we'll see you guys then. Peace.